Good morning, everyone. So I had two kind of questions pop up this weekend from clients and some friends, and just awesome people reaching out wanting to know more. And it came up into posture and neck pain. So I'm actually going to address kind of both of them in this awesome little post here that we can hopefully answer some questions and see where we can go from there. So there are pretty much four postural alignments that you want to make sure that you can kind of do as far as planes work. So I drew a pretty decent picture here. Wording's probably backwards, but whatever, okay? You get the idea. So standing posture, you've got your head and your ribs, your hips, knees, and your feet, and your arms directly up overhead, okay? So that's what you want to be able to do. Can you stack all of your joints? So the back side here is called your posterior chain, and then the front side here is called your anterior chain. I like to think of it because it needs to be a chain, because a chain isn't very strong unless it's pulled tight and it is stacked up on each other. That's where a chain is going to be the strongest, and you might have some weak links in there. So these are the big points. You got your knees and your feet, your hips, your ribs, your elbows, along with your neck in there, and your head with your shoulders. So there's a lot there. You have inversion. Ideally, you'd be able to like to go, if you can stand up straight and hold yourself up straight, we want to be able to invert the body. It is designed to be able to be fully stacked onto your wrists and your hands, onto your elbows and the shoulders, with that neck and head right in alignment. Your rib cage, then you've got your hips. That spine is all the way good lined up in there too, with the knees and the toes up into the air to balance with those glutes. So, and then the other one is lying on the ground. So you're here laying flat on the ground with your arms up overhead. So I drew this awesome little picture here because the biggest thing that you can do to start getting better core strength and better posture, there are two alignments. If you don't have core strength, you're never going to have good posture alignment. So posture is all those bones being stacked up on each other, and your ability to control that posture is how the muscles hold everything into place. So here we've got the rib cage and the hips. They are designed to open up and kind of close up together. So we call that like the hip tilt and the opening up that diaphragm, okay? So, and then the same is actually getting into a prone position, but you're going into a push-up position. I think it's very important for postural to be able to push up off the ground. So if you think of a baby, what's some of the first things that they do? They learn their core strength, and then once they learn to roll over, which is the twisting of the spine, so that is definitely huge with posture and being able to have that thoracic spine open up and twist. Then you also have your ability to push up off the ground. That's the first thing they do. When the baby kind of realizes that they can push up, lift their head up, and so that also comes into that kind of Superman position where the arms come up above the head. I'm going to show you a lot of these postural alignments, but I wanted to show this off and kind of talk so when you understand what I'm saying, anterior chain, posterior chain, and all the different neck muscles are always going to be stacked. So you want to think of everything stacked. And when you're standing, you're rooting into the ground. So just like a tree, you want to be nice and strong and rooted. So I'm going to just talk about what's great to kind of come into those positions of movement. I always have some type of myofascial release to them, but all you want to do today for a nice good stretch is I have a band. You can use a towel, okay, or a belt. I don't care what you have, but this is what I have close on hand, so that's what I'll be using. And I always go through the body, top to bottom, standing, and then I move to the ground so that I can get those movements and then some inversion work afterwards if that is what your body needs. So you always want to stop from top to bottom. But when you stand, just like anything, get those feet and toes warmed up, okay? Everything drives off the ground, okay? If you've got power, you're going to get it all from your source to the ground. I'm a big fan of being barefoot. It's called grounding. It actually can help your nervous system. But barefoot gives you a much, much better read and able to spread those toes out. So just like your fingers, getting a nice wide base, getting them spread out. And if you're having trouble controlling your toes, That's okay. Remember, it's a step one of just turning on the nervous system. So the brain's got to travel all through those chains and those links to get all the way to those toes. Okay? So practicing, and your hands and your feet work really well together. So you're going to spread those toes out, and this is where you can kind of find that little bit of that balance. Maybe lean forward, lean back just a little bit. That will help you actually get in just real quick better alignment, because you have to fire those glutes and everything. But when I'm stretching, I do get everything nice and rooted, kind of get that position where I feel like everything's stacked. Rolling the shoulder blades, and remember, back will open up, forward will close the back up, okay? So we're gonna pull them back and then knock that head back, okay? And also feels like you get one of those like double chins that we always try to like elongate our necks and push it forward to make it look like we don't have it. But dude, it's fine. Your neck is designed to go back. So we start with neck pain, and the best way to kind of open up the neck, and we're gonna start right real quick with that. So what we're gonna do is actually, you can take your fingers if you need to, and you're gonna drive that head straight back. So it almost feels like and then you're gonna go through kind of, your neck is designed to turn, and it's designed to go forward and back. Okay, and you can also rotate it from side to side. So what you're gonna do is push that neck back. If you're having trouble even doing that, standing next to a wall, and then when you're here, you're just gonna push yourself up, back, off that wall, okay? That will start strengthening up everything, because a lot of times we stand like this, or we're looking down, or we're looking at a screen all day. So the best thing you can do is put your head back, standing. Remember, postural alignment is on us, like standing tall and elongating all the joints. When I say stand tall, it means that your muscles can pull each other away, and they can also contract closer. So that neck, we want it nice and tall, which means that we're gonna drive those shoulders down. And then what we're gonna do is, honestly, first I always start with a neck tilt. So you're just tilting, almost like you're trying to push your ear. Like, you gotta look up and kind of find that in the corner of your eye. And honestly, moving your eyes is gonna be fantastic for that. So if you don't ever look to the side or out of there, you're not gonna have as good peripheral vision. So you wanna make sure that you're doing that. It all works together. So then you're just gonna look from side to side as far as you can back. If you need to take your hand and that helps you look even further back, do so. Okay, so now we've done the tilts, and now we're going from side to side, and then we're gonna look down, stretching out the part of this neck of your neck, okay? And then also looking over, and you can look down. I'm not pulling it down, I'm actually just kind of resting the weight of my arm, and if you need to, remember this one stays long, so that's the whole point. If you need to, you can always wrap it behind your back. That will give you a better option, is to get those shoulders down, okay? So, and then we're gonna just look up. So I'm looking up, and then I'm gonna tilt just a little bit, the same thing looking up. So this is where my jaw is now almost like I'm trying to make it as long as possible. So if I'm pulling that jaw to the sun, the ceiling, or the sun, and then we're just gonna kind of tilt from side to side too in that movement, okay? So we've got the neck kind of warmed up. Good thing that you're gonna do is now take your hands, if you can, cross them and then roll them back. And you're just gonna kind of roll through that whole neck, okay? If you can't quite cross your arms yet, this is where a towel really comes into play, because mobility and posture, which mobility is your ability to kind of move through that range of motion, increased range of motion is only going to help that body, because the less we move it, if we never put our arms behind our back, guess what? By the time we're in our 70s, 60s, 70s, that movement will be really hard. The cool thing is, no matter what age you're at, your body will start adapting. It just might, the timeline can be always different. But I promise if you work on some of this stuff daily, this is all you got to do, is a quick body check through the movements and stuff that you're struggling with, and just spend a little more time. So this is where you can take your towel and try to get your hands as close to possible, and you can pull back onto it, okay? And then I like to now I'm going to start moving into the shoulders, because the neck and the shoulders are directly attached, okay? You have these traps where you see the guys like invisible traps, because they probably never stretch or pull them down, okay? So pulling those shoulders down, and And when I say pull, you're actually taking your scapulas, which is like those shoulder blades in your back, and you're actually going to think about twisting and pushing those together, like you're taking your elbows and almost pushing them together. So you're going to come here with that and then kind of pull back. Let those shoulders round and open up that chest. So we talked about that chest and that diaphragm all stacked, and the tilt, then it opens up. We need to be able to open that up almost as far as you can. And again, this is where I'm constantly stretching my neck through all of these shoulder movements. Gonna come across your shoulder and kind of do the same thing. Okay, your neck is all directly part of this. All right, so then you can take your arm behind your back as much as you can. Ideally, you can reach as far, like the whole movement to check if you have good shoulder mobility is if your fingers can at least touch, or some people are really good, especially once they start getting pretty warmed up. And see, for me, I'm not there. So this is where my tool of having a towel comes into play. What you're gonna do is take it behind your head, okay? And mine's a little stretchy, so it could be harder. And what you're gonna do is just kind of pull up and down. The towels and the belt, anything rigid is going to be a lot easier. Another tool I like to use, if you don't even have, but you're telling me you can't find even a pillowcase, anything, you can also use a PVC pipe or a tool here for that. So it's all up to you what you prefer to do. When it comes to posture alignment, having something that is rigid and set up next to you as tools can really help with that. All right, and then, so I'm here, and I'm pulling up and pulling down through those shoulder blades, and then just make sure you also switch your sides. Pulling up, pulling down. What you do to one side, you always want to do to the other. You're gonna notice one side's probably more flexible than the other. Welcome to your body. Obviously the goal is, and then what I'm gonna do is then take my hands and then look up. Okay, so now we're working on opening up those shoulder blades. So we tracked them down, now we're pushing up. Your scapula and shoulder blades have four movements that you can do. You can push them out, you can pull them back, you can also press them down, and then you're also gonna go up with them. So that's huge when it comes to diaphragm. It's attached to the back. Posterior chain with that and the flexibility is great. So we're going up as high as we can, and then I'm actually going to start, like I said, I got those legs set, and I'm actually going to start opening up and working my way down to that core. So I'm going from side to side, and now I'm going to open up those intercostals, my rib cage. Okay? So going from side to side, really opening up the whole arm and extending it is going to get everything fired up, okay? So a lot of times you want to try to, if you're opening up, once you're in that full relax, take a deep breath, you're going to pull yourself into it. And then the whole goal is to pull and relax. So you got that nice stretch through your core, and then you got some things opened up. I like to come then to my back. And again, this is where my shoulder blades are now going to start pinching together, opening up that rib cage as much as I can, and then moving my jaw. So when I say I'm moving my jaw, I'm actually rolling it around and attaching through that neck. So guys, that's just the upper part of your flexibility through here. Okay? When you want to go and start flexing out the rest of it, I like to then go ahead and you can split your hands, your legs, excuse me, and you're then going to open up. And we talked about thoracic spine stretching. So this is now where you're going to start moving. And I put my hand back here so I can start getting that range of motion. I don't have as best through that thoracic spine core surgery about 2 years almost ago, and I'm still working on some of the movements and addressing some of the things I'm doing. So as I'm here, this back leg is now going to start, you're going to start feeling this hip flexor start opening up and stretching too, okay? So you're going to switch the legs and really start opening up and going from side and twisting. Remember, eyes, where you guys want that range of motion to go, the eyes gotta go, okay? So eyes are a huge one to get through that. Now that I've got kind of my hip flexors going, I'm gonna start warming up the glutes. So glutes are your butt, your medius, maximus. It's a whole complex muscle that's there. But as you're going to go down, you're just going to start stretching and try to keep a flat back in the beginning when you're warming up, okay? So then I have my legs together and I'm just going flat. I like to cross my arms. You can have them hang. And then what you're going to do once you're in that, we're going to just kind of spread a little bit. And you might notice you can go down just a little bit deeper. And then what we're going to do is really just relax into that movement. The reason why I have my arms crossed so I'm not hanging, so that they can actually hang and relax. And then I'm actually, while I'm down here, I like to kind of pull my arms behind my legs and actually start to go a little bit deeper. And again, I'm moving from side to side and getting that spine. And then once I'm down here, if you can't reach, that's fine. That's kind of where a post is nice. Or you can go on the side of something to kind of hold you up. And then you kind of just gonna look and put those arms behind you. So now we're doing the bent thoracic twisting to warm up that spine too, okay? So then I like to come, this is the part where I actually like to stretch out my toes and my shin. So if you guys have shin splints or anything, a lot of times spending time on those ankles is really great. Pulling the toe up, and then don't put weight on this leg, okay? This is the one being stretched. We put weight to balance here, and then we're gonna go through that calf to kind of open that up there. So you notice I'm literally kind of going through each joint, getting the hamstrings and everything stretched out. And then we're gonna go wide too. So your legs like to go narrow, wide, and they actually kind of cross over too. So we're here, and then once we move to the floor, we'll get a really nice stretch to do that too, okay? So we've got the nice and stretched out. This is where we kind of come to the ground, and this is where I like to just be on my knees. So this is called a Samsung stretch, okay? And what you're gonna do is stack everything. So you notice head, shoulders, ribs, hips, knee are all stacked, okay? We're gonna flex that glute, and all we're gonna do is it's gonna feel like we're trying to like drag our leg, our knee to almost that other opposite one. So I'm pulling with this leg, I'm pulling here. So what we're gonna do is just kind of stretch everything or flex it like we're pulling, and then what we're gonna do is relax it and let it open up. Okay, so we're stretching almost like we're trying to drag our knee, then we're gonna relax and stretch it open. All right, so same thing. We're gonna stretch, we're gonna flex everything, get it nice and going, toes spread, pulled towards you, and then we're gonna let it flex and go right into however low you feel comfortable with. Okay, so once we have that, I like to go into what's called a froggy stretch. So your feet are actually gonna come together behind you, and then you're just gonna go in a position that you feel most comfortable with. And this is gonna start opening up the hips. Okay? And all I'm doing is kind of rocking through that motion, and then as I can get more relaxed, you can go wider if you feel. This is a great one. If some people are actually working on their side splits, if you feel more comfortable in this position, you can also then go from side, holding one, and side to side. Okay, so once I've kind of done the hips, I'm going to just lay on the ground here, and then I'm going to cross my legs and go right into that glute. Here's your butt. Okay, so we've got the glute, and all I'm going to do is try to hug this position, or I can bring my leg up, whatever works best for you, and then what we're going to do is actually hug and turn. Again, our body's designed to stretch through that flexibility and that posture. So if you're standing all day, then you are getting everything stacked. So you want to make sure that you have it nice and stretched, and the muscles are actively working on the anterior chain as well as there on the posterior chain. So I move my legs here, we're gonna go, and you can point your toes if you can. If you can't do this, you just wrap them, okay? And kind of pull here. And then going up and down, kind of flossing those movements there with the legs together. I'm gonna go in 4 and do each one singularly. Sometimes you have really good flexibility through where you're working with, so you don't need to spend as much time on some things, but I do recommend there being a nice little checklist. So here's a tip. You've seen the butterfly stretch. I feel like this is like one of the basic ones that I kind of learned. And you flex them to the ground and you pull those heels as close in as you can. If you want to start working on that lower lumbar is where we're going to next, you push them out away. And then what you're going to do is be here and we're rounding that back, kind of like we did when we leaned forward. And then we're also going to check and come around there. Okay? So once we have that, you're going to come back and lay down, and we're going to go all the way back with the arms. So this, if your arms can go all the way up, closed up and front with your toes, then you've got good postural alignment, at least for the ground. But this is where we're at. We're going to feel our rib cage open, and we're going to feel it close. So I'm going to turn it sideways so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And here, we're opening and we're closing. Okay, so good movement. You're doing, it's called a hollow rock. This is closing up the anterior chain here all the way through, okay? And that's a great one to start warming up that core. But once we lean all the way back, we're gonna take this around our leg and we're gonna pull that up as far up as you can go, okay? That is fantastic. Where your leg is still straight, and once you have that kind of stretched out for a bit, you're gonna then drop it to the side. And again, pulling it up towards you, relaxing. You might feel that you're ready to kind of pop in those lower hips too. That's okay. And then you're gonna go across the body too. All right? So we're here with the other leg. Again, I'm pulling it, but yet finding a point where we can relax too. It's a balance between strength, engagement, and relaxation, and getting that body to really let those muscles elongate. And that's what we're trying to do. As we get taller, older, let's not all shrink, okay? And spend some time on that. Then what I'm going to do is flip over to my stomach. This is one some scorpion moves and stuff that I absolutely love doing. So I am going to flip over here, and you're going to put your arms out to your sides, okay? And then what we're going to do is start warming up the body lower. And what you're going to do is take your body over and let it go as far out as you can. If you can go back behind you, fantastic. Almost feels like you're going to drive that butt down and push those hips forward. Okay, so you should feel this right through there and your lower back rotating. So I go from side to side. When you're here, you can also start opening up and looking